everyone's out. I wonder how many people are coming.
We'll see. What you're going to see is that, yeah, we're now live, everybody. So we are, hi, hello, everyone. We are going to be talking about a number of things. So let me just get going and I'll tell you the plan of our session as well as what's happening. Here we go. Okay, so basically this is our award plenary. And we have a lot to do, so let's get going. Basically, I'm going to get on the right screen. Let's see if I can get this going. There we go. So we have an hour and 15 minutes to do a lot of things. We're going to announce 4 prizes. The new researcher, which is Andrew McKellar, or I always never pronounce her name right.
McAlevey.
Sorry, what did you say?
McAlevey, but it's okay.
McLeavy, yeah. And Alice Coyne, who's our dissertation award winner, and our regional network award winner is from Uruguay. She's Margarita. You're a bit on the dark side, Margarita, because your window, the sun is coming behind your head. And we have Shigeru, our past president, and myself, I'm the current president. Just for all these awards, there's plaques and there's certificates, and they have a choice whether they want to do it in person or whether they're going to do it by mail. So and after we do those first 4 prizes, we're going to thank you, the presidents. Shigeru is going to he's going to thank Catherine Eubanks for her contributions as the past president, and I'm going to thank Shigeru for his contributions. We have a couple of minutes for that. And Dr. Uli Kramer, who's with us as well. Where are you, Uli? I don't see Uli for some reason.
I'm here. No problem.
There he is. He's going to talk for a few minutes about the next meeting, which is going to be in Lausanne. And then Shigeru's because he missed his chance in Vancouver to do a presidential address, he's going to do a little talk about his work and I will do a little talk about mine. So let's go. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Marvin Goldfried New Researcher Award winner. So this is a SEPI person who is basically, I've got you, I'm going to close all your videos so that I can't see you. There you go. You're a Goldfried SEPI New Award winner is a SEPI member who is a post-degree researcher who has 10 or fewer years of experience and who is not a current member of the SEPI Research Committee, and he's going to receive $1,000 of money. He can do whatever he wants to do with that money, but it's basically has to do with a body of work that has impressive quality, quantity, and connection to psychotherapy integration. There was an empirical paper that was submitted with his application, and it was nominated by a SEPI member. The 2020 New Researcher Award goes this year, drumroll please, to Dr. Andrew McAlevey. Andrew is from the Weill Cornell Medical College, and he submitted his paper entitled Multi-Level versus Single-Level Factor Analysis, Differentiating Within Person and Between Person Variability using the CCAPS 34, and it was published in the Journal of Consulting and Clinical Psychology in 2020. He published this first authored paper with Louis Castonguay, Jeff Hayes, and Ben Locke. So right now what's going to happen, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and talk. Dr. McLeavy is now going to summarize his work in a short presentation.
Very short.
Very short. There you go. And Dr. McLeavy can share his screen if he wants to.
I can. Okay. Am I good? Can you see?
Sure. Yeah, we can see it. It's perfect.
Great. Okay. This is a huge honor, and I cannot possibly thank everyone enough for receiving the Marvin R. Goldfried SEPI New Researcher Award. Marv, in particular, is a very important figure to me. I knew his work from one of the first days in graduate school, and I knew him starting not long after that, and he has been personally and professionally an amazing individual just to watch over the many years of my career and to see his development in that time as well. So it's a huge honor, and I can't believe my name will be associated with him at all. But it is a new researcher award, and I think the important thing about that to me is that it's not really for me. this recognition clearly can't be about anything I've done because I'm so new. There's been a huge number of people in my life who have helped me along professionally. I can't list them all. I won't have enough time. And I would certainly leave some very important people off. But without these people, I wouldn't have been anywhere close to where I am now, and I wouldn't have had any amount of fun along the way. So Sue, Sam, Henry, Jeff, Christian, James, Joanne, and Ben, I cannot thank you enough. And genuinely, this award belongs to the people who have helped me along. So thank you. No one deserves this recognition more than this man, who everyone on the call surely knows and has probably had a glass of wine with. Louis was my graduate mentor. And aside from being one of the very most important intellectual figures of the 20th and 21st centuries, is also just a genuinely wonderful human being and believes maniacally in the power of positive reinforcement and actually enjoying what you do, which makes other people enjoy what they do as well. So without Louis, I am nothing, and thank you. I knew that I would spend quite a long time talking about everyone who I think, so I am going to talk briefly about a paper about factor analysis that only a small number of people are interested in, which is okay because I'm going to talk about it with an example primarily. And it's part of the goal of SEPI is to integrate across research and practice. One of the ways that we need to be thinking about this in clinical psychology is integrating research into practice, but also conducting research that is more useful in clinical practice, and measurement, which is really the currency of scientific discovery, is how we do that better. And so I'm going to be talking about one project to do the measurement of science that we need for psychological practice better. Everyone on the call probably understands what measurement-based care, routine outcome monitoring are in principle. It's the idea that providing patient-reported outcomes in a structured form to patients in psychotherapy may have some benefit. And I'm not going to talk about whether or not it does have some benefit or how much of a benefit or anything like that, but if it has any benefit at all for any specific patient, it is useful because it allows someone, probably the clinician, to understand what has changed in treatment. That measurement-based care is a tool to understand what is different about a person at a later point than when they started. And this is actually somewhat complicated to assess because our measures are designed in ways that may not be perfect for this. So again, I said an example, so I'm not going to talk about factor analysis quite yet. Let's imagine we had an outcome measure with 8 items on it. So sort of a general outcome measure. It had been developed perfectly with great factor analyses and item response theory that said these 8 items have 1 factor. And we administer it to 1 patient at baseline, and then again at a time that might be their final session. And since it's got 8 items, we add them all up and we get a total score. And this total score didn't change over time. So this person maybe didn't change over time. And this measure therefore tells us, well, there's not been progress. This is an important thing to note. And maybe that's a problem, maybe it's not, but that is what it is. And this measure is based on factor analysis, which was done almost certainly with data from 1 time point, which means that it tells people apart from each other, but it doesn't look at changes over time at all. And one of the things that a very detailed clinical examination might identify is that 4 of these items are actually moving together very closely. So the items that are highlighted in orange go up substantially from time 1 to time 2, and the items that are blue actually go down substantially. And so though the total score is the same, what we see is a very clear pattern of 1 phenomenon going down, 1 phenomenon going up. If these are different clinical constructs, this is an entirely different story than just no change. This is a patient who is suffering less in some ways and more in others, but for whom treatment might just need to change rather than terminate, or might not be considered a failure because there have been changes that are qualitatively different. And so we need methods that can help us differentiate between failure to change and more complexity. And again, for time, I'm going to rush, but multi-level factor analysis is one potential method that might be useful for this. It's relatively common in more intensive longitudinal data studies, but in this study, we tried to use it with relatively few observations per person, 10 or more, which may sound like quite a lot to many people, but is not nearly as long as many treatments of psychotherapy. So it's quite feasible in practice. And what we found was that the things that change over time, the factors that you discover from looking at change over time, tend to be narrow. They tend to be smaller, more nuanced features. And the things that differentiate people from each other, but are stable, tend to be broad. And so these general patterns of negative affect or overall severity tend to be about discriminating between people, and may therefore be extremely useful for treatment planning or severity level discriminations. But if you want to know what changes, you probably need greater resolution of concept. So you might need something quite different from a measure to track change than to tell people apart. And this is actually a failure of our research to provide adequate information to our clinicians, because clinicians don't want to use measures that are not useful. And if the measures are not useful, they're not going to use them. And so we need research that will develop measures that can be more useful in practice, which probably means accounting for the ways that people change over time and providing complex, nuanced data. And we also need to change the way we practice with measures, because it is more complex to track more than one thing over time and recognize that people change in somewhat contradictory ways. But this is something that clinicians do all the time, but measurement can do with numbers. And that actually may provide great benefit because it can alert therapists to more about what's actually going on for their patients. And that's the gist of that particular paper. Again, it speaks to our need to integrate research and practice from both ways. This is not the case we need to do better research so that clinicians can adopt it, nor is it the case that we need to bring clinicians just up to speed on a research practice. The research and the clinical practice can benefit from listening to each other. Again, thank you everyone who has been helpful. I couldn't possibly do this without a huge support network, and thank you to SEPI and the awards committee. This is deeply meaningful. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. So let's just talk, let me just go back. I'm going to share my screen and go back to talking about what we're going to be talking about, which is this one here. So we've done him. What happened here? I can't seem to get my screen to move. I'm going to stop sharing. I'll start again. Maybe I have to go somewhere else. Let's do this one. For some reason, it's not moving. Oh, there we go. Okay. So here, well, let's start here. So we're going to talk now. We've just finished talking about the Marv Goldfried New Researcher Award winner, who is Dr. McAlevey, whatever. I can never pronounce your name right. Sorry. And Andrew, and the next one we're going to talk about is the winner of the dissertation award for 220. She's also going to be a SEPI student. She has to complete her dissertation proposal, but not complete the project at the time of the submission. The topic has to be related to psychotherapy integration. She also gets a $1,000 prize, which is, that's not spelt correctly, included, which can be used for any purpose related to the dissertation, materials, instruction, or conference participation. And the 2020 winner of the DIS Award of the Year, I'm not sure if it's 2020 or 2021, we have to have an argument about that, is Alice Coyne. She's from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and her dissertation was entitled Therapist Level Moderation. Isn't this interesting? It's very similar. Therapist level moderation of within and between therapist process outcome associations. And she's supervised by another SEPI member whose name is Dr. Michael Constantino, and she will summarize her work also in a short talk as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to let Alison Coyne now take over. You go for it, Alice. I always say Allison instead of Alice. You have to unmute yourself.
All right, yeah, just took a second.
There you go.
All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna assume that's a yes. All right, hi everyone. So like Andrew, I'm really honored to receive this award, and given the time constraints, I will give a very short presentation on some of the results from my dissertation, which is now complete since I think this was the 2020 award. So my dissertation is titled Therapist Level Moderation of Within and Between Therapist Process Outcome Associations. And so just to give a little bit of background for this study, although it's now well established that therapists can have a notable impact on psychotherapy process and outcome, psychotherapy research has only recently begun to attend to these therapist effects by parsing process outcome associations, such as with the alliance construct, for example, into their within therapist components or differences in alliance or outcome among patients working with the same therapist, and their between therapist components or differences in therapists' average alliances or outcomes across all patients in their caseload. And interestingly, the few studies to date that have parsed the alliance outcome association into these components have yielded somewhat mixed results, which may suggest systematic variability in the size of the within and between therapists' alliance outcome associations or the presence of moderators. And although speculative, it seems plausible that such variability might be due to differences between therapists in the extent to which they use the alliance to achieve positive outcomes. So put differently, similar to patient-level findings that the alliance is more therapeutic for some patients compared to others, it may be that the alliance is more therapeutic in the hands of some therapists compared to others. And addressing these questions, one of our aims in my dissertation was to test whether the size of the within therapist alliance outcome association varied significantly across therapists. And second, we explored whether specific therapist level variables explained such variability or moderated the within and between therapist alliance outcome associations. And given that we weren't aware of any previous studies that have identified therapist level variables that moderate the parsed alliance outcome association, we drew on theory and previous research to select the variables that we thought might be most likely to moderate these relationships. So first, although the alliance has been shown to relate to outcome across different treatment types, different theoretical orientations propose different roles for this common factor in treatment. Thus, it's possible that therapists who identify with different theoretical orientations, such as psychoanalytic or psychodynamic compared to cognitive behavioral, might use the alliance differently in their practices. Second, we also thought it was possible that therapists could be somewhat aware of the extent to which they use the alliance to achieve positive outcomes. And so we also looked at therapists' own perceptions of their ability to effectively foster the alliance as a moderator of its association with outcome. And so just to give a brief snapshot of the methods for this study, we drew on a naturalistic sample of 212 patients treated by 42 therapists. Patients rated the alliance after every even-numbered session, and we used the average alliance level across the first 4 measurement occasions in our analyses. For outcome, patients rated their global well-being and functioning at baseline and post-treatment, and therapists rated the moderators at baseline. Finally, we use multi-level structural equation modeling to test the research questions. So in terms of results, regarding our first aim, as you can see here, as expected, there was significant variability in the size of the within therapist alliance outcome association among therapists, such that some therapists, like therapist A here, actually had negative alliance improvement associations, whereas others like therapist B here had no alliance improvement associations, and still others like therapist C here had strong positive alliance improvement associations. Regarding our second aim, one significant moderator emerged of the within therapist alliance outcome association. And so specifically as depicted here graphically, you can see that therapists' self-perceived alliance fostering effectiveness moderated this association such that therapists who saw themselves as better than average at fostering alliances with their patients actually had negative alliance improvement associations. In contrast, therapists who saw themselves as average or slightly lower than average compared to their peers at fostering alliances had strong positive within therapist alliance improvement associations. Additionally, one significant moderator also emerged for the between therapist alliance outcome association. And so as you can see here, therapists' degree of identification with a cognitive behavioral orientation moderated this relationship, such that for highly cognitive behavioral therapists depicted by that purple line there was no association between their average caseload level alliance quality and their average caseload level outcomes. In contrast, zooming in on the dashed green line, for therapists who identified less strongly with a cognitive behavioral orientation compared to their peers in this sample, higher caseload level alliances associated with better caseload level outcomes. So overall, this study provides some of the first proof of concept evidence supporting the notion that different therapists may rely on different processes to affect clinical change. Moreover, our moderator results may suggest that for therapists who hold humbler views of their relationship fostering abilities and/or who identify less strongly with a cognitive behavioral orientation, the alliance may represent a key ingredient for fostering change in their patients. In contrast, those therapists who view themselves as more universally or consistently effective at building alliances and/or who identify very strongly with a cognitive behavioral approach may be less likely to use the alliance to positive effect and may instead rely on other processes to achieve change with their patients. And such results suggest that it could be beneficial for therapists to know themselves by reflecting on these characteristics and then tailoring their practices accordingly. And overall, the results may suggest that the time might be right for researchers to begin attending to therapist level what works for whom questions when examining both theory-specific and common process outcome associations, as such work could have the potential to inform the development of more nuanced clinical practices, trainings, etc., that take into account both members of the psychotherapy dyad. So thank you all for listening. And I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who supported this project. I don't have the time to list you all individually, but a big thanks to Mike Constantino, who was my mentor for this dissertation.
That's really awesome. These studies are fabulous. And I have to say, that's a great dissertation, Alice. And it was a lovely study that you did too, Andrew. So thank you very much for everything. Look at all this clapping on the side. Everyone's clapping. Notice those little claps. They don't last forever, but they last a little bit. So let's go back to what we're going to talk about on track. I'm going to, let me see if I can do this. We just finished this one. Let's see if we can manage. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. So we just finished this one. We know that Alice Coyne was the winner of our dissertation award for 220. The big surprise and the only unknown for us today is that the Jeremy Safran Memorial Poster Award from Division 29. And the reason is because Division 29 just recently adjudicated this award. We do it both ways. The society, it's an award that has been awarded by Division 29, and they adjudicate it, but we also prepare the adjudication. So the research committee of SEPI sends the executive committee at Division 29 a series of people that we think are good, and then they adjudicate that. This year's Alliance, the Division 29 SEPI Research Committee agreed that the award goes to a poster by a girl named Galet Paisachoff. Anyway, it's titled The Ability of Nonverbal Synchrony to Serve as a Marker of Alliance Ruptures. Now, Galet is from the University of Haifa in Israel, so congratulations to you, Galet. And this award comes with a certificate and monetary award as well, which I believe is $500. And it can be sent to you by mail if you like, or be given to you in person next year. And the poster can be seen this year in the demand video. So go watch this and meet Galet. She's actually on the screen doing her lovely short talk, which she does. And you can get a copy of the poster as well as in the extra files that are there. There's also an abstract for the poster. So she's going to be highlighted in our SEPI website soon on top of that as well. So let me just talk to you now about, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have stopped my screen. But thank you for Galet. That's congratulations to her. There's claps from everybody. So let me just, I'm sorry. There's Galet. The next award is, this is the one that's really interesting. This is the Arnkoff and Glass Award for the Regional Network of the Year. And this award honors doctors Diane Arnkoff and Carol Glass, and because they were formative in the research, or the, I always say research network instead of regional network development. It's given to a regional network that has contributed significantly to the mission of SEPI. Now, the winner of the Regional Network Award also gets $500 US to spend as they see fit, and a plaque is also included. In the poster award, you only get a certificate, but in the research network or the Regional Network Award, you get a plaque as well. And the award for Regional Network of the Year goes to the Regional Network of Uruguay, whose coordinator is Margarita Dubardieu. The Regional Network of Uruguay promotes integrative psychotherapy from all perspectives. And it not only integrates different models of therapy, but also different areas of medicine, neuroscience, sociology, and other disciplines. So Dr. Dubardieu directs the Uruguayan integrative psychotherapy area in several countries as well. And the regional network conducts postgraduate training in integrative psychotherapy for professionals in universities all across South America and also in Spain. And it also provides care, supervision, and training in hospital settings, psychiatry, oncology, endocrinology, gastroenterology, etc., and other vulnerable contexts. And they also collaborate with institutions in Spain. And wow, isn't this amazing and deserving? So we're gonna hear now a little bit from Margarita Dubardieu, who's gonna speak briefly in accepting our award. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so she can do that. And go ahead, Margarita. She's the only one who has glass. She has sun behind her, which is one of our.
Well, I speak now.
Yes.
Well,
do you want to share your screen, or do you want to?
It is only speak.
Okay, you're on
It is
speak.
an honor for us to have received this award, and we are very grateful for the warm congratulations received by all of you. This award is a recognition that gladdened us because for 25 years, we have been developing integrative psychotherapy with contributions from psychoneuroimmunology and neuroscience in hospital settings and other institutions with adults, adolescents, children, work with couples, families, and biopsychoeducation workshops.
Wow.
In addition to the clinical work, there have also been integrative psychotherapy trainings in different Latin American countries of Latino American Federation of Psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology in Spain. I want to thank you very especially, Tom, for this recognition, and thanks Alberta, Diana, Tracy, Carol, and other colleagues of the SEPI board and the members of the regional network. Sorry for my language difficulties. In Uruguay, we speak Spanish and more French than English. But we want to say that in the clinical, we identified stress factors and positive factors for in couples, in children, in
anybody,
oncology, any more consults. Bon, thanks you very much.
Margarita, you do a wonderful job. I think there's no one who's actually more appreciative of you than I am, and we all are. You do amazing work. And I think that you are very, very, very deserving of this award. So I'm so glad that you got it.
Thanks.
Let me share my screen one more time.
I don't understand.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
There we go. So this is the award that they got. Oops. I've got, oh, so now we're going to hear from Shigeru. He's going to briefly thank Catherine Eubank. This is a picture of Catherine. She was our president for the year of 2019. I'm going to share and let Shigeru take over from now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I feel honored to be in this role to express our gratitude to Catherine Eubanks. Catherine served as a president of SEPI during 2019 In her presidency, she made numerous invaluable contributions to SEPI. You may already know a lot about Catherine, but let me briefly mention her contributions to SEPI and psychotherapy integration. She completed her doctoral dissertation with Marv Goldfried at Stony Brook University, and then she did her postdoc at Beth Israel Hospital, working with Chris Muran and Jeremy Safran. From the beginning of her career, she embodied the worldview of psychotherapy integration. Receiving her SEPI Dissertation Award in 2007, she has been an active and integral member of SEPI. She has numerous articles on the alliance ruptures and treatment of personality disorders. In her presidency, she set her mission as building alliances. I have no doubt that she realized her goals. She welcomed and included those members whose backgrounds are other than psychology, such as psychiatry and social work, to ensure collaboration between disciplines within SEPI. She also strengthened the connection with APA Division 29. She worked actively with the region networks to build the alliances across countries and also across generations by promoting students' involvement in our decision-making processes. In her essay in our newsletter, The Integrative Therapist, she emphasized the importance of welcoming and embracing differences because the differences enrich and deepen our dialogue while allowing diverse perspectives to flourish. I truly resonate her view, and I believe that Catherine, in her role as a president, promoted this in so many important ways. Her mission, building the alliances, will remain as one of our continuous goals, just like exploration in the name of our organization. Thank you, Catherine.
I just wanted to let you all know that people who get like Shigeru and like Catherine can get plaques and gifts from all of us, and these will be all done more in person when we get there together in person instead of virtually, because Shigeru's in Tokyo, Catherine's in New York, I'm in Toronto, Uli's in Switzerland. We can't get our stuff together. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this all in person when we're in person together, yeah. So let me just share my screen one more time. I'm going to share it and I'm going to talk a little bit about Shigeru. Let me see here if I can get this one here. Let's see if I can get it to go. There it is. So thank you to Shigeru. He was our president last year, and that was a terrible, horrible, thankless job because of COVID-19. His conference was canceled completely in Vancouver, and his address was also cut out. But he still managed to start the web series for SEPI and to forge a wonderful relationship with Tracy Prout, who's our new chair of communications. He was also at the helm as we transformed our SEPI website and oversaw the new logo creation. And he's been a wonderful leader and example of integration, and he's particularly able to appreciate emotion as an integrative force in life. Shigeru is associate professor of developmental clinical psychology at Okonomizu University in Tokyo, Japan, and conducts psychotherapy research on client emotional processes from an integrative perspective. And he's also a proponent of both accelerated experiential dynamic psychotherapy, which is called AEDP, that should be capitalized, and also emotion-focused therapy, EFT. He also has very close ties to Canada, so he's dear to my heart because his son lives in BC and he has been a tireless translator and leader. And he sees SEPI as having a worldwide base, especially in Asia. Thank you, Shigeru, for your quiet and kind leadership. You've been there for me in many ways. I personally appreciate your presence, and you're going to receive a plaque for service too. Gifts may come next year in Lausanne. And you're shaming me, so I have to save face this way. Now we're going to listen to...
Thank you so much, Alvata.
You're very welcome. Now we're going to listen to Uli. He's going to talk a little bit about Lausanne and the next year where we're going to be in person. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Uli.
Thank you so much, Alberta. It's my great pleasure. And you can also imagine that it's a bit weird to stand in front of the camera and to invite all of you to an in-person meeting next April in Lausanne, Switzerland. So, but I hope you all join me in my enthusiasm also the one of the Swiss regional network, to a place, Margarita, where people speak French. And I would like to first share, and of course, Alberta knows this place very well, share my enthusiasm with a video and then give some information about the conference. Going to share again because I have more here. Can you
It's so beautiful there.
It's beautiful, yes.
So
wow, look
you're
at
all
that view.
welcome next year, April 21 to 24 in Lausanne, Switzerland. Happens to be the Olympic capital. Here you see a picture to the SEPI conference that will be in person. Where is Lausanne? It's halfway between Paris and Matterhorn, but it's more than that. Of course, you can fly to Geneva Airport, take a train. It's quite small. I've seen a video, quiet city, 150,000 inhabitants, right at the border of France and also close to Lake Geneva, Lac Léman. So that's also where our conference will be taking place in this beautiful site at Lac Léman of the University of Lausanne. You can see Amphi Max in the center of this screen, which is where our conference will take place. It's really just a 10-minute walk, or maybe if you want to run, the 2-minute run from Lac Léman, so you can see it's a professional and relaxing venue. And everything that's missing this year, like, you know, just go for walks, have great talks together, exchange among colleagues is something I would expect you will be able to do in this natural environment. Hotels are not on site. They will be in the center of the city, but really very close by. And here you have this main hotel, which is Alpha Palmier, very close to train station, just 2-minute walk. But of course, it's all uphill or downhill in Lausanne because we're really close to the lake, as you have seen earlier. But there is a metro and also taxis, and it's really very convenient. Of course, there are many other hotels in all price ranges. Although Switzerland is not the cheapest place to be, I would really invite you to stay an extra day or more, or 2 or more, because you can see here there's so much to explore, and the Olympic capital is very proud to you know, host many activities for you guys if you want, but also there are lots of cultural activities and, you know, some great food to taste and wines, of course, in this region. So Greg and I are really excited to hope to welcome all of you April 21 to 24. It's a Thursday to Sunday in Lausanne, Switzerland next year.
I have to say that this is a really wonderful site. I mean, I know that I was in a talk with Louis Castonguay, and he was very upset because he wasn't able to speak French in person and whatever. And I hear Margarita's also sort of saying she prefers to speak French, so it depends. And the other thing that was so interesting to me about Lausanne was they offer, the hotels, just so that you know, offer a lot of free transportation passes. So that was one of the things that was also very interesting.
Yes.
One of the reasons we couldn't go there in person this year was because of the issues of travel and COVID. And so I think it was smart to do this online that we had done, but it's also a very, very lovely, lovely, lovely place to go to next year. And I'm glad of that. Yes. We're also going to have further years. We hope to have a conference again in Vancouver because we missed that. So Sugar can see his son who lives out in UBC again. We're going to have a meeting in Istanbul. We're going to have a meeting in Krakow, I hope. So we're going to get those organized soon and let you know about those as well. So I'm
I
going to,
will, a question.
Sure.
In Lausanne, there will be translation, French or Spanish? No?
we'll have to pay attention to that.
In the conference of Lausanne, there will be translation, Spanish or French? No?
We'll have to look into that. That is an expense that we have to look into.
Ah, yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Let me see where I am now. I think I'm here. We said, oh, what happened? Oh, I have to press the share button. Okay, so we've done this. This is not working. Oh, okay. So now we're going to share, we're going to get a brief address from Shigeru because he was completely sideswiped by COVID last year. So let me stop sharing and talk about that. Go ahead, Shigeru, you can share your screen.
Okay. Now, do you see the presentation or my screen, the correct one? Okay, great, thanks. So thank you so much, Alberto, for sharing your time with me. As my presidential or past presidential address, I'd like to review SEPI in 2020 and relate that to suffering and flourishing, which was a theme for 2020 conference in Vancouver. Well, the pandemic hit right when we are preparing for a Vancouver meeting. And indeed, we were just ready with our final program, which was uploaded on our website. And this was the very first conference since 2003, which I first attended, that I missed in last 17 years. However, I think that SEPI responded very strongly and appropriately to this pandemic in the way that is in accordance with SEPI's mission. So I'd like to review what we have done. I mean, first of all, Journal of Psychotherapy Integration was one of the very first psychology journal which responded to the pandemic with a special issue on telepsychotherapy. A total of 17 articles were published, and they were all free access. And the number of downloads was quite amazing. I think it's clear that this became a very important resource for psychotherapists all over the world. I'd like to thank Jennifer Callahan, our chief editor, and her editorial team for reviewing so many manuscripts in a very difficult time and very quickly. The next one, although we had to cancel the main conference in Vancouver, we had a small yet very meaningful online poster session. And as Alberto said, the Jeremy Safran Memorial Poster Award, which was created in collaboration with APA Division 29, was given to Maytal Bendit from the Wright Institute, who studied integrative supervision. Congratulations, Maytal. In order to keep our connection and bring psychotherapists in dialogue, we started SEPI webinar series. So far, we had 7 webinars and well over 1,000 people participated from more than 20 countries. And there's one coming up on deliberate practice right after this meeting. I'd like to thank Tracy Prout and Lauren Lipner for their work in preparing and hosting these webinars. And again, in order to keep our members connected and to have SEPI's presence on the web, SEPI's social network accounts and pages were created by Tracy Prout and her team. And I hope that we will keep connected through these platforms throughout the year after this conference. Our newsletter is another platform for us to keep a connection. Thank you, Alex and Sasha, for your great editorial work. And I would like to welcome Alan and Jeremy for the new editorial team. And they are looking for materials, and I hope you have something to contribute to. Another important way for us to connect, as Alberto already mentioned, is regional networks. SEPI has 24 regional networks, and I think they are really important to create the worldwide presence for SEPI. I'd like to thank Tom Holman and Dominica Alfaro for putting all the regional networks together. And also, I'd like to thank all the leaders of 24 regional networks. SEPI also showed its responsiveness to another very important social issue, which is racial injustice. We posted our statement on our website, and JPI now has a call for special issue on anti-racism and psychotherapy. And I think this is one of the very important tasks for us in the future. Finally, I will turn to suffering and flourishing, which was the theme for the meeting in 2020. I think psychotherapy integration is a way of creatively responding to and resolving human suffering. And in doing so, I think that the member of SEPI and integrative therapists collaborate beyond borders and really create shared resources as we did. And I think during the pandemic, SEPI demonstrated that we can play a very important role in responding to human suffering effectively and in timely manner. And I think then, in addition to that, I think the SEPI can contribute more, which is the flourishing. Flourishing is a state of optimal health and psychological growth in which resilience is created and strength is in fully operation. Psychotherapy has long focused on addressing psychopathology and human suffering, but it also needs to pay attention to optimal human functioning, and SEPI can really take a lead on it. We can identify and describe moments of flourishing in psychotherapy, and we can also understand the roles of vitality and other energy producing emotions. We can explore advanced states of openness, creativity, and wisdom. We witnessed in 2020 pandemic that flourishing can occur in the depths of overwhelming difficulties. I propose that we pay attention to both suffering and flourishing and take lead in studying and understanding both. Finally, I'd like to express my gratitude to SEPI EC, our Secretary Tracy Martin, and SEPI committees. Anastasios Stalikas, Ted Maroon, and Frank Dumont. They are my professors at McGill University who introduced me to psychotherapy integration. Les Greenberg, Rhonda Goldman, and ICEFT and emotion-focused therapy team, society, for teaching me the joy of working with emotion. Diana Fosher and people from ADP Institute for allowing me to have a large-scale study. And current and past students and the research participants of my lab at Ochanomizu University. I admit I haven't thanked my students enough. Thank you. Some of them are probably here today at the very late hours. And also my family. And I have so many friends and colleagues from SEPI I want to thank, but here is just a small list: Diane Ankoff, Carol Glass, Franz Kasper, Martina Bells, Barry Wolf, George Stryker, Marv Goldfried, Ellen Ben Paul Wachtel, Shelley McMahon, Louis Castanguet, Nuno Fonseca, Dan Fishman, Stan Messer, and many others. And of course, Alberta, thank you so much. I know you from the very beginning of SEPI, and you have been so important for me to feel integrated to SEPI and in many other ways. So SEPI played such an important role in my professional and personal development, and I feel so honored to be a part of this organization. And thank you so much to everyone for this opportunity to serve as a president of SEPI.
You've been awesome, Sugar. You've been awesome.
Thanks.
I have to say, thank you. As usual, Shigeru shames me deeply because, of course, in terms of my presidential address, I just talk about myself. He's talking about everything. He's talking about SEPI. He's talking about all these people. He's thanking everybody, and he should. And I'm just being a selfish, self-absorbed bitch. Excuse my French.
That's true. Alberta, I have two presentations. One is just about my work, but then I
okay.
didn't know how to integrate.
Let's talk about me then. Let's talk about me. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can move this on. What happened here? I can't move you. What's going on? Oh, there we go. So here's my brief. I did earn the new researcher award in, I think it was 2011. It could have been 2010 from SEPI. And just basically, my research is focusing mostly now on 3 initiatives. One initiative is emotional processing and emotional regulation. We know that experiencing what we need to do in therapy depends on sound emotion regulation. And there's a paper that we just published recently on that. There's a long-term treatment of depression and how it relates to, I call it emotional processing, EP, and how to identify resilient long-term emotional processing subgroups amongst depressed people. Those are my interests, basically. So basically, the first one was developing workshops in EI. I've been working for the last couple of years on doing that, and we know that some of our clients have difficulty regulating their emotions. So part of my work has been more clinical than research. I've been working on developing trainings and workshops in Switzerland and Norway in order to help clients regulate emotions better and to understand why some clients need more attention to do this well. There is versus transforming, and that's an important distinction that we want to make here. You use skills for short-term regulation, and you often use transformation like memory reconsolidation for longer term and permanent emotional gains. Just realize I'm also writing a book for APA that's going to be published in 2022. And then there's some preliminary evidence that was presented in Glasgow about this kind of teaching people how to be emotionally intelligent. There's new online pedagogy that's also being tested. And there's a poster by Alan Kian, who's the new newsletter editor, that's also in the poster section. So along deliberate practice guidelines, we're developing teachable skills for both clinicians and clients. That's what the first part of it is, developing those workshops. The second interest is on long-term depression. We've done a number of studies to show that long-term outcomes in the treatment of depression may depend on a certain type of emotional processing that happens when therapy happened 18 months earlier. And we do this to show that the alliance needs to be out of the picture when you measure outcome. And T-Still talked about this. If you can show 18 months after therapy is over that the emotional processing in the therapy actually predicts, have a predictor of change. And to do this, we often use the classification of affective meaning states, or the CAMS. It was also developed by a SEPI member, Antonio Pasqualeone, in 2005 for his dissertation at York. And we're validating emotion-focused therapy, emotion theory as well, to see if it provides a good common factors template for predicting long-term resilient outcomes in the treatment of depression. That's the second stream of research that we're doing. The third stream of research is subtyping CAMS states and depression. There's 2 types of research that's happening here from our lab. First of all, we're subtyping some of the CAMS categories because we found that the CAMS categories can be too broad sometimes. So Amanda Piccirilli in her honors thesis subtyped global distress, and there's another dissertation that's subtyping hurt and grief. So we're trying to figure out, why basically some CAMS subtypes can be more refined. We're doing this with hurt grief. So the second line of research is subtyping depression. So we're doing task analytic research that shows that subtypes of depression actually take different lines of emotional processing in terms of resolving their depression. And we're kind of basically, there's a dissertation that's being now done that's done by Natalie Ferreira, I believe it is. And she's looking at self-inhibited depression, like versus another person's going to be looking at dependent depression. And we're coming to the conclusion that underlying depression often is anxiety. There's a reference there from Watson Greenberg, who wrote a book on anxiety, and it's very complicated. Anxiety tends to complicate things on the surface. Some people are depressed because they're anxious. Some people are anxious because they're depressed, and we were trying to figure that out. The third thing, obviously, is, I mean, that's the third thing. So basically, what we want to do is to stay tuned, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually activate and show you that you can do clinically meaningful research, as Andrew's been doing, as Alice has been doing. It's happening in everyone's work, and we want to give clinicians scientifically based directions. The fantasy for our lab is to change research and make it more fluid and to provide markers of resolution. We think studies can provide client markers of readiness to terminate. So he or she reaches their goals and can now terminate, instead of being like only 5 sessions or 8 sessions or 10 sessions or 16 sessions. So this would mean identifying those who resolve quickly and those who will not. We want to help focus clinicians on important processes that work to provide more guidance and support. And we also want to help clinicians know when a client will not be served by an approach, so we can be more ethical in our treatment. So just email me if you want to. You're going to see that there's also stuff around that in terms of the attendee hub as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to have a little. Wow, it's 11:10. We've got 5 minutes to go. Holy smokes. We're 5 minutes. Now I could have stopped. I could have not been so rushed, because we have 5 minutes to play. So I wanted to thank everybody. Margarita, you do a wonderful job in Uruguay. So thank you for your work. Alice, you've done a fantastic dissertation. Thank you for that. Andrew, you're an amazing young man. I mean, I think you are totally amazing. I've always thought so. So congratulations to you on the new researcher award. And Shigeru, you've been an amazing president. You've been so kind and so thoughtful and so Japanese and so fabulous. And of course, Uli's going to be our next, he's agreed actually to be our local chair for Lausanne, which is, so instead of being the local chair with me here in Lausanne, he's going to be the local chair for next year in Lausanne. So we'll still be able to go to Lausanne. This is so awesome. Thank you, Uli, for your great work. So what we're going to do now.
Thank you, Alberta, for making this online meeting. And I know that there's so much work that was involved in preparing and negotiating and all the things that was
we have to do
up to now. And I know how much work you put into it.
Okay, so what we have to do now, because I know that the attendee hub is a little behind us, we have to actually be quiet for a few minutes before we end our session. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to basically I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if I can find it now. This is not the right one. Let me just find this. It's not the right screen. Stop sharing the screen. Again, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I'm going to try to open up the right. Let me just close this. No, I don't want to close that. I'm going to open this one up. People have to laugh at me because I am the IT bugaboo of the year person. I'm always having to do horrible. I have an IT poltergeist in my. So let me share the screen now. There it is. We're going to share the screen.